Alright, so welcome to How to Dyno. In this video, I'll be replacing my 5-year-old custom command walkthrough video, specifically part 1. So let's get into it. Head over to dyno.gg, select the Manage Service button, and then select the server you like to manage. We'll go ahead and select this little drop down here and select Custom Commands. Ensure the module is enabled. For those of you that are new to custom commands, you'll pretty much be met with a blank screen. Keep in mind, if you are not a premium user, you are restricted to 25 custom commands. But other than that, you'll have the option to hit add command, and this will begin the setup for your first custom command. So first up, you have this name field here. This is going to be the name for the actual custom command. So in this case, I'm going to use the name user. If I wanted to run this command, all I would have to do is just enter the prefix followed by the name here, and that's how I would run the command in my server. For the description, you can put whatever you'd like here. This is really for your sake to understand what the command does. But in this case, I'm just going to put demo here since I'm demoing this to you guys. And then here in this command field, this is where you actually put the logic for your command. So what you want the command to do. So in this case, I'm creating a simple user command, which is just going to mention the user running the command. So in this, my logic, I'm going to enter user. And I'll show you where you can find variables like this in order to use in your commands. But these commands can be as creative and complex as you want it, whatever you see fit for your server. So next up, you have an option to add an embedded message. So I always treat this as like a fancy touch to a command. So if you want to see what an embed looks, I'm just going to enter some text here. And then down below, you'll see a preview of what your embedded message will look like. So I call this pretty much the embed builder. It's really straightforward. You can enter the title URL. So if you want this to be clickable, you can enter URL there and then a description. But you pretty much can control fields and whatever else you'd like to for this embed. It's just going to be a wall of text, but that's pretty much all this is doing. You're just building out that embed. So I'm going to exit out of this. Next up, we'll have some options for our command. So you have the option to delete the command, which will delete the command after it has been ran. So if I type this user command into my server, Dyno will just go ahead and delete that. If you want to maybe keep your channels clean, or if you don't want people to see what exactly you're running, that's when this will become handy. Next, you have the silent command, which will pretty much mute any response from Dyno or kind of suppress that response. So if you run the command and you have something like this in where Dyno has to respond, this will go ahead and silence that response. Next up, we have this DM response, which will send a DM message to the user running the command. So this is not really useful if you're trying to create like a DM custom command where you're trying to DM a specific user. There's a certain variable you would use for that. This is only handy if maybe there's a response you want Dyno to DM the user running the command versus publicly putting the response in the channel. And then finally here, this is usually enabled by default. You can prevent Dyno from mentioning everyone here in certain roles. Usually this can be abused if you have certain variables that maybe relay or repeat what people enter. So that's pretty much what this is preventing. Again, usually enabled by default. If your command has nothing to do with, everyone here or anything like that, you're fine leaving this. It's not going to hurt. Next, we have some permissions. So I kind of like to think of the allowed section as only allowing that specific role or channel to run the command. So as an example, for allowed roles, if I select this How to Dyno role, I am essentially only allowing users in this How to Dyno role to run this command. And no one else outside of that role will be able to run the command. On the opposite, you can set ignored roles. So if you want maybe members in your server not running this command, you can do that. But I typically tend to lean towards the allowed roles, because then you can select what specific roles can run the command. And if someone comes later and maybe creates a new role, this will always apply. Whereas ignored roles, if you have multiple roles that you don't want to allow running this command and then someone creates a new role, that role will be left out from this list. So that's pretty much how that works. Same thing for ignore channels. You can select a channel for Dyno to ignore, which will prevent the command from running in that channel. And then allowed channels will only allow the command to run in the selected channel. Response channel. So this is actually a good command example to use, because this will have a response from Dyno. Typically the default behavior for this is Dyno will respond in the same channel as the command. So for example, if this was ran in general, Dyno will typically respond in that same general chat. But here, if you want Dyno to always respond in a specific channel, you can select it here. So maybe you have like a bots channel or a log channel that you want Dyno to respond to and only respond in that. You can select that here. So next, under advanced options, you can set a specific cooldown for Dyno when running this command. So a cooldown just prevents someone from spamming the command. So for example, if I set this to 5 seconds, once I run the command the first time, I have to wait 5 seconds before I can run it again. So that's pretty much what that cooldown is doing. Next, we have this delete after. So this delete after only applies to Dyno's response for the command. So if I set this to 5 seconds, for example, Dyno will go ahead and delete the response to that command after 5 seconds. So in the case for this user command, once I run this command, Dyno will go ahead and mention the user who ran the command, which of course will be me. And then after 5 seconds, Dyno will go ahead and delete that mention because I have this delete after set. And then finally here, required arguments. A good example that I like to use for this is for a DM custom command, where you have to maybe specify the user you want to DM and then the message. This will only allow the command to run after the required arguments is met. So for this, 1 is probably fine, or honestly 0 is probably fine. Doesn't really matter, but if something for like a DM command, that will require at least 2 arguments. Think of arguments as the items or words you put after the command. So for DM, I would need to mention a user, so that's 1 argument, and then I would need to type in the text for the actual DM, which is going to be, the second, third argument. So you could set the number here. It needs to at least meet that minimum before actually proceeding with running that command. Next, here we have additional response. So unfortunately, this is limited to premium users, but if you want Dyno to maybe have a secondary response or have maybe like another embed on top of whatever is being sent up here, you can set that here. So premium users, if you want to have, maybe a response go to a certain channel, or, 2 channels at once, or have them go both to the same channel, you can do that here. And then here is the variable reference. So this is the user variable I'm using up above, but anything you see here pretty much can be used in this command section here. This provides you with the variable along with what that variable is doing, followed by an example of how to use that variable. So this is very useful. It might be overwhelming when you first look at it, but as you create custom commands and maybe look at a few examples, you'll start to get the hang of how these variables work. Pretty straightforward once you start using the variables. Again, I'm using this first one here, which is just going to mention the user that's calling the command or running the command. So in this case, if I were to run the command, then I would just mention myself. You can use this for a lot of different applications. You can really become creative with these variables. So you have that variable reference there. And then finally, to actually add and activate the command, you can hit this add command button. This will go ahead and create the command for your server. If for whatever reason you're having issues with the command, of course, so you have this toggle here to disable and enable your custom command. Also ensure that Dyno actually has permissions to read in that channel, view the channel so that it can actually see that you're trying to run a command, and also speak in that channel. If you need to view what your command does or some of the logic for the command, you can click on the view and they'll show you what's in your command and what options you have enabled. If you need to delete the command, you can go ahead and delete it by selecting this delete button. And if you ever need to come back and edit the command, you have that edit button there. Once you're in editing mode, you can see you have a few new options here, such as renaming, since we're now editing an existing custom command. And you also have the option to clone the command. If you want to create like a command that does something similar, you can clone it. And then once you make any of your changes, you can save the command here. So that's pretty much it when it comes to the custom commands module. A lot of it just comes down to the needs of your server and your creativity. If you want to view some custom commands that I've created in the past, I will link a custom command playlist that you can watch. But other than that, that's pretty much it when it comes to custom commands. I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe.